In this week's drive, we lose grip, leave the track, drop some points and scratch some paint. Find it hard to drive with a floppy front wheel. Reach for the sky and fall painfully back to earth. And find that the wizards of the bike world aren't only men. All this and more in this week's Drive. The news that Fernando Alonso had become the youngest Formula One world champion was greeted with delight in his hometown in Spain. Thousands poured into the streets to celebrate around a fountain that is the city's traditional gathering place for moments of sporting glory.
Dream for any racing driver to be world champion, and I arrived in Renault with 20 years old, and I grew up with the team. We improved all together, and now to develop the team from nothing to the world champion, and for me the same, from nothing like driver to be world champion, is a fantastic feeling.
The 24-year-old had capitalised on the reliability and consistency of his Renault during the 2005 season to rack up points, while rivals McLaren and Ferrari have either suffered breakdowns or simply been too slow.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you are champion with 24 or 28, but for sure it's better to be young and to have a competitive car and to have the possibility to fight for the championships. And I had this great opportunity in my life, and I'm champion now, so really with 24 I achieved the maximum in my life, so I have to find new targets now.
The key to Alonso's success has been his work with the Renault F1 team. He joined the team in 2002 after a year driving for the struggling Minardi outfit. He met team boss Flavio Briatore, and it was obviously a relationship bound for success.
Thank you very much to Renault. We have a very young team of 1,000 people, but these people are all world champions because we have all done the job to achieve this goal.
Ahead of the Brazilian Grand Prix, Fernando took time out to visit the Monte Azul, a UNICEF-sponsored project in a slum district in the southern part of South America's most populous city, Sao Paulo. UNICEF supports a local initiative providing care for children at nursery, kindergarten and preschool levels. Alonso, an ambassador for the UNICEF's Spanish committee since February this year, visited the children of Monte Azul to learn about the organization's work and to meet some of his youngest and most enthusiastic fans. Alonso is the first driver other than Michael Schumacher to win the Formula One World Championship in the past 5 years. The penultimate leg of the 2005 DTM year was in Istanbul for the first ever DTM race in Turkey. Reigning champion Mattias Ekström of Sweden started with a 1-point advantage over British driver Gary Paffett, who claimed pole position, while Ekström could only manage 5th place on the grid. In the rain, Paffett held the lead at the first corner of the 32-lap race. Paffett's countryman Jamie Green was involved in a crucial incident early on. Green barged his way past Ekström's Audi, which struggled badly for the rest of the race, Green going on to claim 4th place. Opel's ex-Formula One driver Heinz-Harald Frentzen and Audi's Christian Abt both crashed out when their cars touched on the slippery track. Ekström, meanwhile, slipped down the order as he struggled for grip on a drying surface, eventually finishing a hugely disappointing 12th. Meaning that the Swede now needs something close to a miracle to retain his title. Paffett cruised to his 5th win of the season as Mercedes completed a clean sweep of the top 4 positions. Double Formula One world champion Mika Häkkinen finished 2nd, with ex-DTM title winner Bernd Schneider 3rd. 7 times Le Mans winner Tom Christensen of Denmark was at the wheel of the leading Audi in 5th place, to mark a miserable day for the reigning manufacturer champions. Green finished 4th, while the first non-Mercedes driver was another former DTM champion, Laurent Aiello, who came 6th in an Opel. Another ex-Formula One driver, Frenchman Jean Alesi, was 7th. With 10 points for the victory, Paffett now leads overall with 78 points to Ekström's 69. Paffett only needs a single point to secure the title in the last race of the season at Hockenheim in Germany. The Indy Racing League, known more for racing on oval tracks, took to the historic racetrack of Watkins Glen, known in America as a road course. The race got off to a clean start with Helio Castroneves and Giorgio Pantano on the front row. It was bad luck for Thomas Scheckter, who appeared to blow a left front tyre or break his suspension, sending him into the gravel trap on just the 5th lap. Englishman Dan Wheldon secured the 2005 title when he finished 5th at the 3rd and final road race on the IRL schedule. Wheldon started the race with 570 points, 102 more than defending champion Tony Kanaan with 1 round remaining. He would end the day with 600, an unassailable 92 in front. He led briefly, one of 5 drivers to do so. Scott Dixon grabbed the lead with 12 laps remaining, but pole starter Helio Castroneves and Austrian rookie Thomas Enger collided on the final lap, so the race would end behind the safety car. Despite the severity of the crash, neither driver was injured. Dixon would go on to take the checkered flag for the victory, his first in 40 races. He was inconsistent in that 40-race span, recording 8 top 5 placings, but almost double that number of did-not finishes. It was only Dixon's 4th career victory. The New Zealander's last win was at Richmond in 2003, and the year that he went on to win the series championship. Kanaan and Dario Franchitti finished the race 2nd and 3rd respectively. The title completes an amazing year for Wheldon, who had earlier taken the checkered flag in the Indy 500. The high-banked concrete oval of the Dover International Speedway was the 2nd stop on the NASCAR chase for the championship. Ryan Newman, who won the opening event in the chase a week earlier, started on pole as the green flag waved. 66 laps into the race, Mike Bliss lost control and slid up the track, scraping his car along the outside wall and bringing out the yellow flag. While the caution was still out, Matt Kenseth and Kevin Harvick collided as Kenseth left his pit. Robbie Gordon, who was in the middle of the New Hampshire controversies when he threw his helmet and swore at Michael Waltrip, blew his engine on lap 282.
If you hurry.
The biggest accident of the race came 10 laps later when Jamie McMurray, Tony Raines and Jeff Gordon crashed. Gordon's day was done, so he headed to the garage. It was the 6th time he has failed to finish a race this season, and 5 of them have been with crashes.
It's like the 42 and 37 looks like made contact as they go down in turn 3, the 37 being Tony Raines.
Oh, wow. Jeff Gordon's.
Yeah, we'll look at it, buddy. 100 to go. I don't know if we're going to get too carried away fixing it. Let's see what we got.
On lap 378, Kurt Busch moved to the inside of the track with a flat tyre, and he nearly re-entered the high-speed train of cars, but was able to control his vehicle and bring it down into pit row. There was no caution called for Busch, but the yellow flags came out again on lap 397 when Joe Nemechek crashed. His car slammed into the inside wall and forced the race to finish under green and checkered flags. Jimmy Johnson held off teammate Kyle Busch to win by about a car length. Johnson had led for 134 of 404 laps. It was his 3rd victory in 8 starts at the Dover Speedway. Johnson leads Rusty Wallace by 7 points after 2 of the 10 races in the chase among the top 10 drivers. Cars on the Champ Car Series took the green flag for a night race in Las Vegas. It was a clean start with one notable exception. Paul Tracy, who started 14th, passed pole starter Sebastien Bourdais on the 7th lap and led under pressure from Bourdais until the defending series champion and current points leader tapped Tracy on lap 123, sending him into the wall.
What happened? Did we just lose it or what?
Sebastian hit me.
Are you hurt?
Bourdais said Tracy never signalled that he was pulling off for a pit stop. However, Tracy said he radioed for 3 laps that he was going into the pits. Remarkably, his crew were able to make repairs to the car and get him back out on the track, and Tracy would eventually finish 17th in the 18-car field. The race then became a duel between Newman-Haas teammates Bourdais and Oriol Sevilla, reminiscent of last year's 20-lap wheel-to-wheel shootout between Bourdais and former teammate Bruno Junqueira. Sevilla and Bourdais touched wheels on the 141st of 166 laps, but both continued, and despite front-end damage from his collision with Tracy, Bourdais edged out his teammate by 0.3 of a second, about 3 car lengths. Bourdais, who leads Sevilla 310 to 243 in the season standings, averaged 172.9 miles an hour in the race that was slowed by 1 caution period that took 16 laps. Tracy is third in the standings, 94 points behind Bourdais. Loris Capirossi started from pole position for a second race in succession, leading the way at the start of the MotoGP Malaysian Grand Prix in Sepang. The Italian held his position round the first corner, while Sete Gibernau and Nicky Hayden collided in his wake. Gibernau was in the thick of it again moments later, trying to stop Shinya Nakano, claiming third place. Both men crashed, their day over on the second of 21 laps. A fourth-place finish would have been enough to guarantee a fifth consecutive Premier Class title for Valentino Rossi, but the Italian was never likely to take things easy. Rossi, who started from 7th on the grid, eased past his compatriot Marco Melandri on lap 4 to move into third place. American Nicky Hayden was battling to keep up with Capirossi, whose team had clearly found a near-perfect setup for his Ducati. But Hayden was outmanoeuvred by Rossi at the end of lap 8, the Doctor making up ground round the final corner of the circuit before edging past the Honda rider on the straight. Capirossi was now squarely in Rossi's sights, and a challenge for the lead wasn't long in coming. Rossi made his move on lap 12, outbraking Loris into the first corner to keep Capirossi on the outside of the track. A 10th win from this season's 13 races beckoned Rossi. However, Capirossi was the fastest rider on the track, and he was going to take some stopping. Rossi's lead was indeed short-lived, Capirossi reclaiming the lead at the start of lap 14, exactly where he had surrendered it 2 laps earlier. That was the end of the action at the front of the race, but Capirossi's teammate Carlos Checa was looking to make the most of his Ducati's superior speed further down the field. The Spaniard managed to bridge the gap to Hayden and passed the American on lap 17, moving up into third place. Capirossi pulled away and sealed his second consecutive win of the championship, having also won in Japan. Rossi just held off Checa to take second place and clinch his 5th Premier Class title in the process. He was 2 seconds behind Capirossi, while Checa was just 0.07 of a second behind Rossi. With 4 races remaining in the season, Rossi sealed his 4th consecutive MotoGP title. Rossi had previously won championships in 125, 250 and 500cc, which means he has now won 7 titles across all 4 classes. The late season form found by Ducati has vaulted Capirossi up into third place, another good result, and Loris and his Ducati could again be the best of the rest. 250cc champion and title leader Dani Pedrosa crashed on lap 2, which allowed the Spaniard's closest rival to bridge the gap. Australian Casey Stoner made the most of his opportunity, taking the victory to move to within 38 points of Pedrosa at the top of the standings. Alex De Angelis of San Marino took second place ahead of Argentina's Sebastian Porto, as Aprilia riders filled the top 4 places. Stoner can still unseat the champion, but he'll need consistent wins to do so. There was a fantastic finish to the 125cc race. Just 4 points separated championship leader Thomas Luthi and his nearest rival Mika Kallio heading into the weekend. The 2 rivals were battling for first place from the 3rd lap onwards, but Switzerland's Luthi on a Honda edged over the line to win the race, finishing a minuscule 2 1/1000ths of a second ahead of Finland's Kallio on a KTM. Italy's Mattia Passini completed the podium places, narrowly taking 3rd place on an Aprilia, and the championship is still wide open. The Supermoto World Championship Series moved on to a rainy Jesolo in Italy for the 6th leg of the season, the Grand Prix of the Mediterranean. While the bikes are essentially big dirt bikes, they're fitted with road tyres which didn't cope well with the muddy sections of the combined dirt and tar track, and slides, crashes and tumbles occurred throughout the race. In the day's second S2 class race, Frenchman Thomas Scherer took victory on his Husqvarna. Frederic Bolli was second for Aprilia, just over 10 seconds behind, with Belgian Eddie Seal third, a further 3.5 seconds back for Husqvarna. Bolli took the overall victory, his 2nd and 3rd places giving him 42 points in total. Championship leader Gerard Delapine of Belgium was dominant in the S1 category, victory in both the day's races securing him the overall Grand Prix of the Mediterranean win to move clear at the top of the standings. In the opening race, Delapine won for Husqvarna with Aprilia's Maz Manzo second, 8 seconds back, and another Italian, Husqvarna's Ivan Lazzarini, in 3rd place. In the second race, Lazzarini and Monzo swapped places for second and third respectively. Delapine took the checkered flag with a victory margin this time of just over a second from Lazzarini. With a further 50 points to his name, Delapine now has 245 points overall. German Bernd Heimer, who led by 2 points from Delapine going into the Grand Prix of the Mediterranean, is now second with 221 points after a disappointing weekend. The next leg of the Supermoto World Championship is the Grand Prix of Greece in Athens. The Motocross of Nations event at the Ernie circuit in France saw victory for the USA team. The highlight of the weekend was the complete performance of Ricky Carmichael. In the first of 3 races, he took an early lead by 4 seconds and eventually won by 7, although at one stage he was nearly 20 seconds ahead. French motocross star Michael Pichon found no hometown advantage to racing in France and eventually finished third behind New Zealander Josh Coppens. 9 times world champion Stefan Everts, the greatest motocross rider of all time, had his worst Motocross of Nations ever, finishing with a 5th and a 9th as Carmichael cruised to the checkered flag. In the second moto, another American rider, Kevin Windham, held the lead early on. Behind him, New Zealander Ben Townley passed David Philippets of Italy and promptly crashed. However, the gritty Kiwi worked his way back up to second place behind the runaway Team USA rider. But Windham's lead evaporated when he bent his bike, overstretching himself over a jump and going wide, handing both the lead and the victory to Townley. David Villeman, Steve Ramon and David Philippets also got past the American before the final flag. The final moto of the day saw Carmichael take another quick lead, although this time Townley was able to run similar lap times until the last few laps of the race. Townley, Coppens and Pichon battled it out behind Windham and Carmichael. Townley broke free of the pack and got past Windham. Carmichael eventually won by 5 seconds to seal overall victory for the USA. Second place France had a mixed day, with Sebastian Tortelli looking very strong early on before a crash dropped him off the pace. Pichon showed great heart, finishing 3rd and 5th, and was unlucky not to do better. The 2-time world champion pushed Windham in the final moto until a final lap crash dropped him to 5th. The Belgian team rode brilliantly to claim 3rd place, while Team New Zealand finished in 4th place and looked very strong, with Ben Townley finishing 2nd in the overall statistics behind Carmichael. Overcast skies and forecasts of rain greeted the riders on the grid for race 1 of Superbike's Italian Grand Prix at the Imola circuit. The cameras were on just 2 riders at the front of the grid, both Australian, and the only 2 competitors in the field with a chance of lifting the 2005 world title. Chris Vermeulen, the challenger, needed to trim Troy Corser's massive 60-point championship lead by at least 10 points over the course of the 2 races. But the pole sitter started badly in race 1 as Corser reacted quickest to the lights. The 1996 Superbike world champion beat his fellow Australian to the first corner, but Vermeulen regained the lead towards the end of the first lap as Corser missed a costly gear change. It was nip and tuck all the way as Corser responded by regaining the lead on lap 9, just as a circuit marshal decided to run across the track in front of the leading 2 riders. Luckily, there was no contact and Vermeulen made the most of his reprieve on lap 14. He overtook Corser on the inside under braking at a bend and never looked back. Vermeulen managed to hold off the challenge of Corser on the final lap, and he took the checkered flag at an average speed of 156.9 kilometers an hour, with Corser just 0.29 of a second behind on his Suzuki. Delighted Vermeulen knew the importance of the win as it kept his slim World Championship hopes alive. However, the elements dashed those hopes once and for all. Corsa had a total of 409 points to Vermeulen's 354, a difference of 55. But the challenge was over when the stewards decided to cancel race 2 because of the dangerous conditions, after an inspection by race officials and some riders, including Corsa and Vermeulen. With just 50 points at stake at Magny-Cours, the rain confirmed a second world title for Troy Corsa.
Yeah, sure. That's the last way I really wanted to win the World Championship. We've had a great year all year, and I think the results from the past have sort of shown that we're a pretty good chance that we're going to win it anyway. But I'll be happy now to go to Magny-Cours and to show that I should have won the championship anyway there. So, no, of course I'm really happy and excited, but a little bit of a letdown that we had to decide it that way in those sort of conditions. But to be honest, it's very dangerous out there, and someone was going to get seriously hurt, I think. So, best decision by race director.
Vermeulen will stand in for the injured Troy Bayliss in the Honda MotoGP team at the Australian Grand Prix. 33-year-old Corsa claimed a first Superbike world title for Suzuki 9 years after his first world title in the 1996 championship, when he helped establish a decade of world Superbike domination by Ducati. The 2005 Trial de Nation took place in the Italian venue of Sestriere. The event covered 2 days, with the women competing on the opening day, Saturday. It soon became a tough battle at the top between teams from Germany, Britain and Spain. The British team of Maria Conway, Donna Fox and Becky Cook took the early lead and held a 3-point cushion over Iris Kramer, Rosetta Liotta and Sabrina Windel of Germany at the end of the first lap. However, it was the Spanish team, current ladies world champion Laia Sanz, Dolores Sanchez and Carla Caldera, who dropped just 3 penalties between them in the second lap. But the German team, with 9 penalties compared to the 15 by both Britain and Spain, were able to take victory by 1 mark from the British squad. On Sunday, it was the turn of the men to take centre stage in this traditional closing event to the Outdoor Trials World Calendar. And it was the Spanish team of Antonio Bo, Albert Cabastani, Mark Frischer and newly crowned outdoor world champion Adam Raga who celebrated the end of the season in style with a national team victory in Italy. The British team of Sam Connor, Graham Jarvis, former world champion Dougie Lampkin and Sean Morris had to be content with second place. It was always going to be a 3-horse race, and it was the British team who set the early pace, finishing the first lap on a mere 5 penalties, 4 ahead of the Spaniards. The Spaniards themselves lay just a single mark ahead of the Japanese team of outgoing world champion Takahisa Fujinami, Kenichi Kuriyama, Fumitaka Nozaki and Isao Shibuya. However, with far higher scoring in the second lap, it was the Spaniards who were to prevail over the UK, with Japan taking 3rd place ahead of Italy. The Trial de Nation is a team competition, pitting country against country, similar to the Motocross of Nations, with each nation represented by its 4 best riders. The top 9 ranked teams compete in the World Trophy division over an 18-section, 2-lap course, while the remaining teams vie for the International Trophy, won this year by the Americans over the Australians and the Norwegians. So whether you're jumping for national pride, sliding off and denting your pride, or simply bursting with pride, so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.